Chapter 1739. During this period of time, our business hasn't been very good. If it weren't for the old customers left behind by the boss, our clothes would be piled up here. Su Qian sighed deeply and said, "Originally, our shop supplied the palace, but then that incident happened. Now, the palace is also cut off, so—" Su Qian's words reminded Jingyu. She narrowed her eyes and said calmly, "I know, we'll talk about this later. Keep this pattern well, don't leak it out." Jingyu glanced at the pattern and said, "Let's go and choose some materials. First, I want to choose the clothes I want to make." Su Qian knew that Jingyu must have taken his words to heart, so there was no need for him to say more. He silently followed behind Jingyu, turned around, and went to the cloth selection area. After selecting some materials, Su Qian looked at Jingyu. Then he gave some clothes to Xiaobai, Xiaochen, Little Potato, and himself. Only then was he satisfied. Looking at Xiaobai's body being measured, Jingyu suddenly realized that Xiaobai seemed to have grown a lot. Time really passed too quickly. Jingyu lowered her eyes slightly. It was unknown what she was thinking about until Xiaobai's voice rang in her ears. "Mother?" Xiaobai saw Jingyu in a daze and asked with a frown, "Mother, are you tired?" "No, I was just thinking about something." Jingyu stood up and looked at Su Qian asking, "Is it done?" "Go back to the boss, it's done. I've already memorized the eldest young master's measurements." Su Qian nodded. "Okay, after you're done, send the clothes to the prince's mansion." After Jingyu said this, she stood up and walked towards the door. Su Qian wasn't in a hurry, as if what he said to Jingyu was just a casual complaint. Jingyu looked at Su Qian and nodded with satisfaction. This person was really good, knowing how to read people's minds. He was a good person for doing business. Jingyu was very satisfied with Su Qian, and the corner of her mouth hooked up slightly. When they reached the door, they didn't get on the carriage. Instead, they walked around the carriage and went to the opposite side. Jingyu stood in the crowded tailor shop and looked at the board hanging high in front of her. The words, "Lian Nikhang," were written on it. When Jingyu saw these words, the corner of her mouth twitched. What was this thing? Why did Jingyu feel a sense of familiarity when she saw these words? Lian Nikhang, wasn't this the female lead in some TV drama? Jingyu thought for a long time, but couldn't figure out which TV drama it was. However, Jingyu looked at the name in front of her and felt unhappy again. Her shop was called Nikhang Court, so what was the meaning of calling it Lian Nikhang? "Someone come." Jingyu stood quietly at the door and stared at the board. She said, "Go take down that board and burn it." 15th interrogation officer quietly took a step forward. After responding, he waved his hand at the person behind him. Nobody knew where the person behind him got a staircase from, but just like that, he set it on top of the building. Under everyone's shocked cries, he took down the plaque. Clang! The huge signboard fell at the entrance. The entrance, which had been bustling with people, immediately quieted down. When everyone saw this scene, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Chapter 1740. Everyone who was walking around also came over. When they saw this scene, they were very surprised and seemed to be wondering what was going on. Xiaobai, who was standing at the side, looked at Jingyu's actions and then looked at the guards behind her. When they were leaving, Xiaobai was still wondering why she brought so many guards with her. Could it be to protect Jingyu? But looking at them, it didn't seem like they were protecting Jingyu. Now that he saw this scene and then looked at Jingyu's calm appearance, he suddenly seemed to understand something and continued to watch silently. "Who are you people? How dare you cause trouble so brazenly? Do you have any respect for the law?" The person who walked out was full of fat. When he saw the board that was smashed to the ground, he was so angry that the fat on his body trembled. He pointed angrily at Jingyu and the others and asked. When Jingyu came out today, she specially changed her clothes. She wore very simple clothes, and the guards she brought with her even changed into the clothes of ordinary servants. At first glance, they looked like ordinary rich people. Who would have thought that they were the current 9th imperial concubine? This fat man probably took one look at Jingyu's clothes and his sharp eyes could tell at a glance that they were not high-end clothes. Therefore, he jumped out and shouted loudly, "Law! Jingyu looked at this person with a faint smile in her eyes and said, "In my eyes, there has never been such a thing as law." Jingyu's words were very arrogant. But looking at Jingyu's appearance, she really had the right to be arrogant. After all, Jingyu was speaking the truth. So many things had happened in the past. When had there ever been such a thing as law? When they were in the Imperial City, any one of the people who fought against Jingyu would be beaten to death in minutes if they tried to talk about the law with Jingyu. "You people." The fat man looked at Jingyu and the others with eyes full of anger and said, "Go and report this to the authorities." Jingyu looked at the person who was running out to report to the authorities. A faint smile appeared in her eyes. She said calmly, Go quickly. Let me tell you, this is a time of peace. You people are bullying people on the streets. I will definitely arrest all of you." The fat man looked fiercely at Jingyu and the others and said, "Do you know who my uncle is? How dare you behave so atrociously in my territory?" The fat man said arrogantly, "Who is your uncle? I'm really curious." Jingyu's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. It seemed that there was something fishy going on here. How capable was this person who dared to appear and oppose him? Jingyu curiously curled her lips. When the fat man heard Jingyu's question, he thought that Jingyu was frightened. His eyes were full of pride. Now you know how to be afraid." When the fat man saw Jingyu and the others cowering when they heard that he had a backer, he was relieved. He thought that some big shot had come, but it turned out that they were just cowards. But since they had fallen into his hands, he definitely couldn't let them off easily. The fat man stared at Jingyu and said, "Let me tell you, my uncle is the assistant minister of the Imperial Secretariat. You don't even know this and you dare to ruin my reputation. You are courting death." Chapter 1741. When Jingyu heard this person's words, she instantly wondered if she had met the legendary idiot. Jingyu turned to look at Yin Xiao and asked, "Do you know who the assistant minister of the Secretariat is?" This servant doesn't know. Yin Xiao thought about it carefully, then lowered her head and said she didn't know. Jingyu once again turned her gaze to Xing Shiwu and Xiao Bai. Both of them were at a loss. How would Xing Shiwu know what happened in the imperial court? Xiao Bai just came back yesterday, so it was even more impossible for him to know. Jingyu nodded seriously. If so many people didn't know about it, then it must be a nameless pawn. Since he was just a nobody, why was he showing off? He was really inexperienced. Jingyu sighed deeply. She narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at the people in front of her. She narrowed her eyes calmly. "Assistant Minister of the Secretariat? Your uncle?" Jingyu nodded seriously and said, "I'll remember that. Is there anything else?" What else?" When the fatty saw Jingyu's reaction and heard Jingyu's question again, he was instantly stunned and looked at Jingyu strangely. "Of course I'm asking if you have any other backing. Don't tell me you only have the Assistant Minister of the Secretariat as your backing?" Jingyu asked calmly. "Do?" The fatty looked at Jingyu and said coldly, "I will definitely send all of you to prison and torture you. I'll let you know how powerful I am." "Oh." Jingyu nodded in understanding and said, "Looks like the Minister of Justice is also related to you. Not bad, with this kind of backing, you can indeed do whatever you want in this area." Jingyu nodded in satisfaction. It was quite interesting to play like this. Beside her, 15th Xing and Xiao Bai looked at each other. 15th Xing suddenly felt that following Madame was also risky. Every time they came out, they caused trouble. Last time it was the Ministry of Revenue and the Supreme Court. This time it was the Assistant Minister of the Secretariat and the Ministry of Justice? What a huge storm. Xing Shiwu sighed deeply, but he was extremely excited. He originally thought that protecting a woman would be a boring thing, but now it seemed more interesting than going out to kill people. Very good. Jingyu nodded silently, turned around and waved her hand. "Don't worry, go in and destroy everything. Remember, burn everything that can be burned, don't burn it next door. Your madam is very poor, I can't afford it." "Yes." When Jingyu said that she was very poor, everyone almost laughed out loud. They responded loudly and rushed in like a swarm of bees, scaring the people in the rooms so much that they all ran out. Then, everyone saw Jingyu crossing her arms and calmly looking at these people who were smashing things. Her posture of burning things was really obedient. She didn't let the fire spread to the opposite side at all. The shopkeeper and the manservant in the shop were crying and shouting, attracting the attention of the people on the street. "How is it?" Jingyu smiled at these people and said, "Is my burning technique okay?" The fatty was so angry that the fat all over his body was trembling, but he was stunned and couldn't say a word. Jingyu calmly curved the corner of her mouth, her eyes full of smiles. Chapter 1742. On this side, the flames of war raged across the sky. On the other side, Chang Court saw Jingyu heading over and smashed the signboard without saying a word. Then, after finding out who the mastermind was, she arrogantly rushed in and smashed things. Su Qian originally thought that after Jingyu found out who the mastermind was, she would adopt a gentler policy. Who would have thought that after finding out, she would become even more arrogant and burn down the shop? Su Qian silently wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and sighed deeply. As expected of the 9th imperial concubine, she was really arrogant. While this side was in chaos, on the other side, the manservant had successfully brought the soldiers over. There were so many of them that it could be called a large number of soldiers. In an instant, half the street was filled with soldiers. The leader had a dignified expression which made Jingyu raise her eyebrows curiously. "Who are you? How dare you cause trouble at the foot of the emperor?" This person was interesting. The moment he arrived, he immediately pinned a big hat on her. Jingyu calmly turned her head and looked at him. Through the veil, she sized him up. "What did you just say?" Jingyu took a step forward and asked this person. "You are the person who smashed this shop?" The man's dignified expression made Jingyu slightly stunned. She nodded seriously and said, "Yes, I am the person who burned down this shop." "You really have guts. You even dare to burn down Lord Gao's shop. Men, arrest all these people who dare to cause trouble here." The man waved his hand and was about to arrest them. Xing Shiwu and Xiao Bai immediately stepped forward. Seeing this, Jingyu rolled her eyes and waved her hand slightly at Xiao Bai. "Don't move. Follow this officer." "Madam." Yin Xiao was instantly anxious. Jingyu shook her head slightly at Yin Xiao and revealed a faint smile. She really wanted to experience what it felt like to be arrested on the street and thrown into jail. Seeing Jingyu like this, Yin Xiao was instantly anxious. Jingyu was still pregnant. How could she cause such a ruckus? However, Jingyu completely ignored Yin Xiao and obediently followed this officer. When the fatty saw that Jingyu, who was incomparably arrogant just a moment ago, actually followed this person without a second word, he instantly felt like he had a stomach full of anger and had nowhere to vent it. He completely didn't know how this person did things. She was obviously extremely arrogant just a moment ago. Now, she just followed this person. Jingyu, Xiao Bai and the rest were directly thrown into the jail. The stench instantly made Jingyu feel nauseous. She covered her mouth and retched. "Humph, finicky woman. You'll have a good time later." The prison guard locked the cell door. The way he looked at Jingyu and Yin Xiao made one have the urge to kill him at any moment. Jingyu held it in. "How is it? How does it feel to be arrested on the street and locked up in jail?" Jingyu turned her head and asked Xing Shiwu and Xiao Bai. "Mother, if father finds out that I followed you out and didn't protect you well and even let you get arrested, father will definitely skin me alive." Xiao Bai's little face was full of conflict as he looked at Jingyu and said, "He wouldn't dare." Jingyu instantly glared and said, "Don't worry. The people we offended this time are people from the Secretariat. If we don't go to jail once, this matter won't get out of hand. I saw something in Xiao Chen's study last time." Chapter 1743. This assistant minister of the Secretariat, Gao Wenyuan, was one of the people who supported the second prince. His Majesty has always wanted to get hold of this person's weakness. Unfortunately, this person is too cunning, so he didn't do anything. Now that he has found him, how can I not go to jail to help Xiaoqin? Jingyu said it so casually. Xiao Bai and Xing Shiwu, who were at the side, heard it and nodded slowly. They were wondering why the madam was so obedient to come to the prison cell today. They thought she was really here to experience it, but now it seemed like that was not the case. Jingyu always had her reasons for doing things, but if Jingyu was really here to have fun, Xing Shiwu would also think it was normal. After all, when Jingyu was pregnant, Xiu Tian was still shouting that she wanted to see snow. This woman's thoughts, it was really hard to guess. 15th interrogation officer stood to one side silently. Jingyu had finally gotten used to the strange smell in the prison cell. She narrowed her eyes and sized up the prison cell, as if she was very curious. This prison cell really couldn't be compared to the prison cells in the palace. Jingyu thought about it with a sigh. She was also someone who had been in jail before. When she was learning etiquette in the academy, she was called to the palace by Fu Ruoqing to participate in some stupid tea party. She splashed water on Fu Ruoqing's face and was locked up in jail because of that incident. That jail was much cleaner than this. However, thinking about Fu Ruoqing, Jingyu was slightly stunned. She almost forgot about this person. In Xiao, do you know where Fu Ruoqing went after that? After Jingyu was chased out of the palace, she didn't hear much news about Fu Ruoqing. She didn't know if Fu Ruoqing was dead or alive. Speaking of which, she was a pitiful woman. Imperial concubine of the previous dynasty? In Xiao was slightly stunned when she heard Jingyu's question. She then said, "This servant heard that Imperial concubine Fu has always been in the palace, but I don't know if she is dead or alive. I don't know what she looks like now." The previous dynasty. Jingyu was stunned when she heard Fu Inxiao's reply. That's right. The Tokyo dynasty had already changed. Jingyu lowered her eyes and didn't say a word. As soon as Jingyu and the others were arrested and thrown into jail, the fat man from the shop came over. The moment he entered the Ministry of Justice, he started crying and wailing. All right, look at yourself. In the mansion, the Minister of Justice, Jin Yinghua, looked at the fat man and said, "I'll lock them up for now. Have you found out about their backgrounds?" What kind of background could he have? It must be that old bastard Xiaogo. Seeing that I stole his business, he sent people to cause trouble. The fat man said angrily, "I said that I would give him a third of the money, but he was still not satisfied. Today's matter must have something to do with Dog Chow. Big brother, for the sake of this little brother's filial piety to you, please help me." The fat man cried and yelled at the side. "Aren't I helping you?" Jin Yinghua straightened up and said, "It's just that today's matter is so big that it's not easy for me to deal with it." The fat man instantly laughed. He knew that Jin Yinghua meant that it was difficult to do things without money. He chuckled and said, "Big brother, if you can let me deal with this person, this box is yours." Chapter 1744. The fat man said as he waved to the person beside him. Immediately, the person carried a box in. The person opened the box and the whole box of ingots made Jin Yinghua sit up immediately. "Big brother, what do you think?" The fat man smiled at Jin Yinghua and asked. "Haha." Jin Yinghua was silent for a moment, then suddenly laughed and said, "That's easy. Fat brother, my people are investigating the origin of these people. If I don't find out, I really don't dare to be ruthless. However, seeing that we have been friends for so many years, I can let you play a little in the prison." Jin Yinghua looked at the fat man with a smile and said, "As long as this person's identity is confirmed, you can play however you want." I'm relieved when Big Brother does things." The fat man suddenly smiled. The two of them looked so harmonious. Jin Yinghua waved her hand and said, "Men, take my brother to the prison." The fatty laughed and left. The smile on Jin Yinghua's face instantly disappeared. She looked in the direction where the plate left and cursed in disgust. Then, she silently walked to the side and looked at the box of gold ingots. His eyes turned into crescents as he smiled. He could make life difficult for anyone, but not for money. Jin Yinghua looked at the box of jewelry with satisfaction. Just as she was daydreaming, she heard a miserable cry from outside, Sir. Not good. Not good." The manservant rushed into the room, his eyes filled with terror as he shouted. "What are you screaming for? What's not good?" Jean Inghua was happy when she suddenly heard such a cry. She frowned and turned to look at the manservant who was sweating and asked, "What's going on?" "Sir, something bad happened." The manservant looked like he was about to cry. He looked at Jean Inghua in horror and said, "The person we caught who is it?" When Jean Inghua saw the manservant's appearance, she immediately frowned and asked with widened eyes. She didn't know why, but at this moment, Jean Inghua suddenly had a very bad premonition. "It's the 9th imperial concubine," the manservant said with a sobbing voice. "What did you say?" When Jean Inghua heard this person's words, she suddenly felt a flash of lightning in her head. Her mind went blank and she looked at the manservant with eyes full of horror. "The person we caught is the 9th imperial concubine and the prince of the palace, the adopted son of the 9th emperors." The manservant's lips were pale. After he said this, Jean Inghua's legs suddenly, and she sat on the chair. "Sir, quickly let them go. Before the 9th uncle gets the news, we should comfort the 9th imperial concubine," the servant quickly said. When Jean Inghua heard the servant's words, her face turned even paler. "Quick! Go to the prison." Jean Inghua suddenly jumped up as if she had seen a ghost. She thought about what the fat man had just said. The fat man must have done something to the 9th imperial concubine. When she thought of this, Jean Inghua's heart stopped beating. Chapter 1745. Please don't cause a huge mess. Jean Inghua trembled violently and almost rushed into the prison. The moment she rushed into the prison, she was stunned by the situation in front of her. The woman in plain clothes was standing at the side, and in front of her was the fatty who was kneeling on the ground, covered in blood. The woman who was standing there quietly looked at her with a pair of golden green eyes. With just one look, Jean Inghua's legs turned to jelly and she knelt on the ground. "Your humble servant pays respect to the 9th imperial concubine. Eldest young master." Jean Inghua's entire body trembled as she knelt on the ground and greeted loudly. "You still know that I am the 9th imperial concubine?" Jing Yu glanced indifferently at the fatty who was lying on the ground. Her eyes were filled with disgust. She walked past Jing Inghua and headed out of the prison. She covered her nose and said in disgust, "What a disgusting smell." No one dared to stop Jing Yu as she walked out. Looking at Jing Yu's pair of golden green eyes, no one dared to say a word. When Jing Yu walked out, she happened to hear cries of surprise from outside. My lord! My lord! Bad news. The 9th emperor has brought people to surround the residence." The servant rushed in hurriedly, but he didn't expect to see Jing Yu the moment he entered. His legs turned to jelly as he knelt on the ground and cried out, "Ninth imperial concubine." Jing Yu frowned slightly. Before she could say anything, she saw the tightly shut door being kicked open. Then, she saw Xiaochen walking in with a gloomy face. This scene was simply too cool. Jing Yu was stunned when she saw Jing Yu walk in. "Xiaochen," Jing Yu called out after being stunned for a moment. Are you all right?" Xiaochen looked at Jing Yu's slightly dirty clothes and knew that she had just been released from the prison cell. His eyes were instantly filled with violence as he stared at Jing Yu, who was kneeling behind her. "Chop this king's head." Xiao Chen's eyes were filled with rage. When he said this, everyone trembled violently and their eyes were filled with fear. "9th emperors, please spare my life." "You can't chop me, I am an official of the imperial court." Jing Inghua's eyes were filled with fear as she shouted. "An official of the imperial court?" Xiao Chen seemed to have heard something extremely funny. He stared at Jing Yu and said, "This king's concubine and child were locked up in prison. If this king hadn't arrived in time, would you have the ability to chop the 9th imperial concubine's head? Who gave you the guts?" Xiao Chen was probably really angry. When he said this, he lifted his leg and kicked Jing Inghua, causing her to fall to the ground. "Pass down this king's orders." The Minister of Justice, Jean Inghua, took bribes and perverted the law. She framed a loyal subject and raped the 9th imperial concubine. She has committed a heinous crime and is to be executed on the spot. After Xiao Chen said this, he turned around and left with Jing Yu in his arms. Xiao Chen raised his hand and waved it coldly. Jin Yinghua didn't even have time to cry out for justice before Xiao Chen's subordinate stepped forward and cut her down. The blood stained the ground red and instantly set off a storm in Dongqing Imperial City. When Xiao Yuling ascended the throne, the storm that didn't erupt was now completely exposed after Jing Yu stirred up trouble. Xiao Jingran had planted too many spies in the fight between the two factions. Now was the time to take advantage of this opportunity to remove all of them. Chapter 1746. Jing Yu had her reasons for doing this. However, the commotion caused was simply too great. When Xiao Yuling, who was in the palace, heard the news, the cup of tea in his hand immediately flipped over. "Your Majesty," the head eunuch at the side carefully called out. "The Minister of Justice was killed just like that?" Xiao Yuling asked the head eunuch with a strange expression on his face. "Yes." The head eunuch silently wiped the sweat off his head and said deeply, "The 9th Emperor's almost killed everyone in the minister's residence." Fortunately, the 9th imperial concubines suddenly felt unwell. The 9th Emperors were startled and hurriedly went to find an imperial physician. Xiao Yuling was strangely silent for a moment. Then he suddenly laughed out loud and said happily, "Ha, good. Good kill." "Your Majesty." When the head eunuch saw Xiao Yuling laughing like this, his face instantly paled and he silently called out, "Immediately go and prepare. The 9th Emperors have already helped me to this step. I naturally cannot let down the 9th Emperor's good intentions." Xiao Yuling smiled faintly and said. The head eunuch at the side was slightly stunned. He looked at the emperor in confusion. What was he going to do? Pass down the decree. Confine the 9th Emperors in the prince's residence. Xiao Yuling thought carefully and said, "Also, bring back the commander's seal. That will be enough." The head eunuch was completely dumbfounded. Was he going to punish the 9th Emperors? The 9th Emperors wouldn't rebel, right? "Just do as I say." Xiao Yuling said very calmly, "Only by doing this can I stop everyone's mouths. Only by doing this can I shut them up and do things more comfortably." "Yes, this servant will do as you say." Although the head eunuch was extremely vexed, since this was the emperor's order, he naturally had to do it. In the imperial city, everyone thought that Xiao Qin had arrogantly chopped off the head of the Minister of Justice. In the past, the 9th Emperors were very calm and quiet outside. However, no one expected that this time, just because the Minister of Justice had captured the 9th imperial concubine, he directly chopped off the head of the Minister of Justice's head. When they thought of this, everyone instantly felt a chill on their necks. It was as if a large knife would fall at any moment. However, when they thought about it, it made sense. Back then, the 9th Emperors was willing to become a traitor for the sake of the 9th imperial concubine. One had to know that the Cebu had been defeated by the 9th Emperors and the 9th imperial concubine. It wasn't strange for them to kill someone. Just as everyone was exclaiming, this imperial edict was passed down. It really shocked everyone. The imperial uncle was grounded and his military authority was revoked? What did this mean? Could it be that there was an internal conflict between the 9th Emperors and the emperor? When this imperial edict was passed down, not only were the officials stunned, the commoners were also speculating. Everyone was thinking about how the 9th Emperors had arrogantly killed someone this time. How would he respond to the emperor's suppression? Just as everyone was waiting to watch a good show, they suddenly realized that the 9th Emperors had actually handed over the military seal and was grounded in the prince's residence. When this news spread, the imperial city was completely restless. A large number of memorials were sent up. All of them were impeaching the 9th Emperors. Xiao Yuling was also very emotional. She didn't seem to speak up for Xiao Chen at all. Chapter 1747. Now, the situation was really strange. Xiao Chen had to shoulder all the blame and Xiao Yuling had naturally pushed all the blame onto Xiao Chen. And now, where was Xiao Chen? Now, the 9th Emperors, who was being discussed by everyone, was hiding in his own home and hugging his wife. His days were really very comfortable. "Xiao Chen, you planned this from the start, right?" Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen, who was hugging her with his eyes closed. She immediately frowned and said, "I know. When you opened the letter in AI's study room, did you deliberately let me see it?" "Madam, I'm innocent." When Xiaochen heard Jing Yu's words, he quickly opened his eyes and said emotionally, "This matter really has nothing to do with me. I definitely didn't scheme against you. I've been thinking about how to push this matter forward for the past few days." When Xiaochen saw that Jing Yu didn't believe him, he quickly said, "This matter really has nothing to do with me. I just didn't expect Madam to give me such a good excuse. I originally didn't want to kill anyone, but when I saw that Madam was locked up and this king's child was suffering, I got angry and caused this situation." Xiaochen explained patiently, "This really has nothing to do with me, I swear." Jing Yu looked at Xiaochen in disbelief. However, it seemed that regardless of whether she believed it or not, the situation had turned out this way. In the future, the 9th emperors would definitely be called a treacherous minister. However, why did Jing Yu feel that it was quite appropriate? Jing Yu hugged Xiaochen's leopard and said calmly, "Why do you look so happy?" "How can I not be happy?" Xiaochen hugged Jing Yu's waist and said, "Being able to stay by your side so comfortably is the happiest thing in my life. At least His Majesty knows my thoughts." "So you're treating this confinement as a vacation?" Jing Yu reached out and poked Xiaochen's cheek. When she saw Xiaochen nod his head seriously, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. "However, since such a big thing has happened, I think Shangguan Linglan's wedding will have to be pushed back." Xiaochen pursed his lips and said calmly, "What?" Jing Yu jumped up when she heard this. She looked at Xiaochen reluctantly and asked, "Why should it be pushed back? Why can't we do our own thing?" "Xing Heir has just taken office. Now that such a thing has happened, it's a good time for him to train. If we don't befriend those officials now and get married at this juncture, wouldn't it be too inappropriate?" Xiaochen explained patiently to Jing Yu. "It's fine even if the wedding is pushed back." Xiaochen said again, "Isn't it better if we have more time to prepare?" Jing Yu frowned slightly and thought about it carefully. It seemed to be true. When the time comes, we must ask His Majesty to compensate us. Jing Yu said seriously. Xiaochen's eyes were tinged with a faint smile as he agreed. Outside the prince's mansion, there was a storm of blood. However, inside the mansion, it was peaceful. Jing Yu looked at her Wei Weijuan's bulging stomach. This child was really stable in her stomach. Chapter 1748. Jing Yu faintly narrowed her eyes as she lay on the bench by the window. Her eyes were slightly narrowed, and there was a faint calmness in them. "Mother!" As Jing Yu was eating, she heard Xiao Bai's voice. Hearing this, Jing Yu responded and sat up straight. She turned her head and looked in Xiao Bai's direction. She saw Xiao Bai happily walking towards Jing Yu with clothes in his hands. "Just now, someone came to deliver the clothes. I just happened to see it, so I brought it to you," Xiao Bai said as he held out the clothes in his hands slightly and said, "Look at these clothes, they are really beautiful. They are not bad. The people of Nichang Court do things quite quickly. Go try them on and see how they are." Jing Yu waved her hand slightly at Yin Xiao. Yin Xiao quickly went forward to hold the clothes and brought Xiao Bai into the room. 15. Go and call Xiaochen over as well. Let him try on these clothes and see if they fit. Jing Yu turned around and said to 15. 15th Xing responded and left to carry out his orders. When Xiaochen and Xiao Bai both put on the clothes and stood beside Jing Yu went forward to help Xiaochen adjust his belt and Xiao Bai's collar. Only then did she nod in satisfaction. "They really fit just like father and son." Jing Yu nodded in satisfaction. A faint layer of pink appeared on Xiao Bai's face. Xiaochen looked at Xiao Bai with satisfaction in his eyes. He reached out and patted Xiao Bai on the shoulder and said, "You've become much sturdier. Okay, go quickly. I want to talk to the child." After trying on the clothes, Jing Yu unceremoniously chased the person away. Xiaochen looked at Jing Yu helplessly and shook his head, but resigned himself to fate and turned to leave. Xiao Bai looked at the way Jing Yu and Xiaochen interacted with each other. His eyes were full of smiles, and his heart was very comfortable. "Xiao Bai, come." Jing Yu waved at Xiao Bai and sat down on a chair. Her golden green eyes looked at Xiaobai quietly and said, I have some things that I want to ask for your opinion on. And mother, please tell me. Xiaobai looked at Jingyu's posture and was slightly taken aback. As if he thought of something, he tightly pursed his lips and responded. You know about this matter. Xiaochen told you before. Jingyu looked at Xiaobai quietly and said, You have to bear the heavy burden of the mansion. Xiaochen said that he wants you to inherit the title. Xiaochen has told you about this, right? Yes, I did. Xiaobai nodded in response. Now, I'm here to tell you that I don't agree to this matter. I don't want you to be so tired. Xiaobai, although I'm not your biological mother, I sincerely treat you as my biological son. If you don't want to, you can tell me. The burden of this prince's mansion should not fall on your shoulders. If you are unwilling, no one can force you. I will let you do whatever you want. Jingyu's pair of golden green eyes seemed to be glowing. The way she looked at Xiaobai was very moving. Mother! Xiaobai probably did not expect Jingyu to say such words to him. Do you understand? You are my son, Jingyu. No one can force you to do anything that you are unwilling to do. Jingyu reached out and touched Xiaobai's cheek. Her gentle appearance instantly made Xiaobai's eyes redden. He opened his arms and threw himself into Jingyu's embrace. He hugged Jingyu tightly, as if he was afraid that Jingyu would disappear. Chapter 1749. Actually, I don't want to take over father's position because I know. If I take over, father and mother will definitely leave. I don't want father and mother to leave. Xiaobai's eyes were full of grievances as he spoke. But father and mother have gone through so much. I want to take over, share father's burdens, and protect father. When father and mother come back, they will see that I am already very powerful. Xiaobai's words fiercely struck Jingyu's heart. Xiaobai. Jingyu was very moved. How could this child be so obedient? So mother. Xiaobai looked up at Jingyu and said firmly, I'm afraid that I will decide. I still want to listen to father and take over his position. Jingyu's eyes widened slightly. She looked at Xiaobai with eyes full of heartache. But I have a request. If father and mother go out to play in the future, can you come back to see me once a year? Xiaobai looked at Jingyu with eyes full of anticipation. Jingyu heard this and immediately smiled. She reached out and patted Xiaobai's head and said, Of course it's okay. Xiaobai, you have to think carefully. You can't do as you please in the imperial city. Jingyu sighed deeply and said, The slightest mistake and you will lose your life. The coldest thing is a person's heart. Then with all the scheming, I'm afraid that you... Jingyu's eyes were full of worry. Mother, don't worry. Your child will be fine. Xiaobai was very determined as he interrupted Jingyu's words and said, I will definitely learn well. Mother, don't worry about me. Jingyu looked at Xiaobai's appearance and felt very uncomfortable. However, it seemed that whatever she said now would be the same. Since Xiaobai had chosen himself, then she would let Xiaobai bear the consequences himself. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, it was all up to fate. The afternoon sun was a bit scorching. After Xiaobai left, Jingyu returned to her bed to sleep. When Jingyu woke up, she found that there was another person sleeping beside her. Why did you come to sleep? Jingyu lazily narrowed her eyes and looked at Xiaochen with a slight frown. I had nothing to do, so I came to sleep with you. Xiaochen hugged Jingyu and said with his eyes closed, This kind of comfortable life is really suitable for us. You're really... Jingyu looked at Xiaochen's expression, her eyes full of smiles. The two of them lay on the bed like this, as if they were half asleep and half awake. They were talking very calmly. Jingyu's eyes had a faint smile. She nestled in Xiaochen's arms, her heart full of joy. The two people lying quietly on the bed, listening to each other's heartbeats. It was so gentle. How could anyone bear to disturb them? Yin Xiao paced around outside for a long time, but she still didn't dare to enter. She turned and walked down the stairs. She looked at the servant who came to pass on the message and said, Go and tell Big Brother Jinglang that Madame and the 9th Emperors are resting. The servant nodded and hurriedly ran to pass on the message. Yin Xiao let out a sigh of relief. It wasn't easy for imperial uncle and imperial concubine to have peace. It was best not to let anyone disturb them. Jingyu and Xiaochen slept until night fell. Only then did they open their eyes. But I'm so hungry. Jingyu was completely awakened by hunger. She rolled on the bed and blinked at Xiaochen. Your baby said he's hungry. Chapter 1750. My baby said he's hungry. When Xiaochen heard Jingyu's words, a faint smile appeared in his eyes. He stretched out his hand and pulled Jingyu into his embrace. He fiercely kissed her to his heart's content before letting Jingyu go. Really? Jingyu sat in front of the bronze mirror and looked at herself in the mirror. The red marks on her neck made Jingyu frown unhappily. Was this damned man a dog? Jingyu put on her clothes again. When she was done, she saw Yin Xiao instructing everyone to put down the food. Jingyu nodded in satisfaction and walked over. Xiaochen also walked over. Ninth Emperor's Imperial Concubine. Yin Xiao prepared bowls and chopsticks for Jingyu and Xiaochen as she said, "This afternoon, the eldest son of the Jing clan came back. However, this servant was afraid to disturb the Ninth Emperor's and Imperial Concubine, so I didn't come to report." My eldest brother is back? Jingyu's eyes lit up when she heard this. Yin Xiao nodded. He should be back soon. Counting the days, it should be around this time. Jingyu nodded happily and said, "It's fine. They just came back. Let's have a good rest today. I'll go find him tomorrow." When Yin Xiao saw that Jingyu wasn't angry, she slowly let out a sigh of relief. A faint smile appeared on her face as she bowed and retreated. When Jingyu heard that Jingyu was back, her mood was especially good. She ate a lot more. When Xiaochen saw that Jingyu was eating so much, he also ate a little more. When Jingyu and Xiaochen were full, Yin Xiao came over and took away all the food. Jingyu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. She turned her head to look at Xiaochen, who was rinsing his mouth, and said, "You're the one who's grounded. I should be able to leave the residence, right?" Xiaochen didn't even think as he answered seriously. When Jingyu heard Xiaochen's words, her face instantly darkened. She glared at Xiaochen unhappily as if she would fall out with him if Xiaochen said another word. When Xiaochen saw Jingyu's expression, he instantly felt conflicted. He glared at Jingyu and asked, "Could it be that you have the heart to leave me alone at home?" Fifth. When Jingyu saw Xiaochen say such words, her eyes were filled with laughter as she said, "You're so indecent." "Madam." Xiaochen called out again. He reached out and hugged Jingyu in his arms. Looking at his dawdling appearance, Jingyu felt extremely amused. She fooled around with Xiaochen for a long time before asking someone to invite Jingyu over. Only then did Xiaochen show mercy and let go of Jingyu. The two of them hugged their books and read on the soft couch. Jingyu lay on Xiaochen's chest and looked at the book in her hand. Xiaochen naturally wasn't reading a story. Jingyu didn't know what kind of book Xiaochen was reading, but she knew that she definitely wouldn't be able to understand it. Xiaochen held the book in one hand and played with Jingyu's soft hair in the other. The two of them were living so comfortably. However, while Jingyu and Xiaochen were living comfortably, on the other side of the imperial city, the general's residence was in chaos. The reason why the great general's residence was in chaos was very simple, and that was, their young miss was missing. Their bride was missing. Chapter 1751. If this wasn't a big deal, then what was? The entire general's mansion was brightly lit, and it was a complete mess. The missing main character was currently walking through an unknown alley. She sat at the end of the bridge and heaved a sigh of relief. She patted her chest and sat down on the bridge. "I was almost suffocated to death." Shangguan Linglan stared at the surface of the water and said unhappily, "Isn't it just a wedding? Is there a need to prevent me from taking a single step out of the house?" Shangguan Linglan frowned unhappily and said, "I'm not going back now. I'll go back the day before the wedding." Shangguan Linglan said with a smile in her eyes. Looking at such a beautiful night scene, the corners of her mouth curled up happily. Looking at the boat parked by the river, she suddenly felt playful and walked towards the boat. She reached out and untied the rope. Then, she rowed the boat excitedly towards the center of the river. Shangguan Linglan's eyes were filled with love as she welcomed the night breeze. She looked up at the sky and sat at the bow of the boat. She reached out to play with the water and looked at the starry sky. She was in a daze for a moment, and for some reason, she suddenly thought of Xing Er. Everyone thought that Shangguan Linglan knew about Xing Er because she knew about Jing Yu and the 9 emperors. Actually, that wasn't the case. Shangguan Linglan looked down calmly. She knew about Xing Er before she knew that Xing Er was Xiao Chen's secret guard. Xing Er. Shangguan Linglan narrowed her eyes slightly. She remembered that the first time she saw Xing Er, it was also around this time of the day. However, it was raining heavily at that time, but it was not raining now. That day, she also ran out of her house just like today. She didn't run out because she wanted to play. She ran out alone because she was angry with her father. That was before she met Jing Yu. She was still very young then. That day was probably the first time she saw someone kill someone. Under the cold rain, the person waved the sword in his hand like a merciless killing machine. She was hiding in the dark. That was the first time she saw someone kill someone. That man dressed in black stood under the rain with bloodshot eyes. Even now, Shangguan Linglan could still remember the sound she made when she was careless. That cold finger was pointed at her sword tip. That person with cold eyes was looking at her as if he was looking at a dead person. That gaze made Shangguan Linglan feel suffocated. Shangguan Linglan even thought that she was dead for sure, but he didn't kill her. Instead, he stared at her for a long time before he slowly moved his sword away and turned to leave. She didn't know what was wrong with her at that time, but she actually rushed forward to hug the person who wanted to kill her. Shangguan Linglan still remembered what she said at that time. She actually wanted this person to send her home because she couldn't find her way home. Shangguan Linglan regretted her words the moment she said them. Shangguan Linglan felt that this person would turn around and stab her in the stomach mercilessly. However, the strange thing was that this seemingly cold and heartless person was so gentle. He bent down and carried her to the entrance of the alley of the general's residence, and then left. Chapter 1752. Shangguan Linglan still remembered that after he returned home and fell seriously ill, he couldn't forget the scene in the rain for a long time. What he didn't expect was that the person was Xiao Chen's subordinate, Xing Er. Shangguan Linglan seemed to be immersed in a deep memory. His eyes were tinged with a faint smile, and the corners of his mouth curled up calmly. So it had been so long since that incident happened? Shangguan Linglan leaned back slightly and lay on the boat, allowing the boat to drift. His eyes were filled with a faint smile as he looked at the starry sky. Just as Shangguan Linglan was lost in thought, he suddenly saw a black shadow flash by. Startled, Shangguan Linglan sat up and suddenly turned to look. He saw a person standing quietly on the top of the boat. The person in black stood on the top of the boat, and his eyes were so cold under the moonlight. Xing Er. When Shangguan Linglan saw Xing Er's figure, he was stunned. He didn't know why Xing Er was here. "Why are you here?" Shangguan Linglan looked at Xing Er with astonishment in his eyes. Xing Er looked at Shangguan Linglan quietly. Then, his figure flashed and he came down from the top of the boat. He stood beside Shangguan Linglan, allowing Shangguan Linglan to clearly see Xing Er's face and expression. "Don't tell me you've been following me?" Shangguan Linglan seemed to have thought of something as he looked deeply at Xing Er and asked. Xing Er continued to be silent. Shangguan Linglan also silently stared at Xing Er. Xing Er responded faintly, Shangguan Linglan continued to sit down. He seemed to be a little unhappy as he said, "Why have you been following me?" Shangguan Linglan hated the way Xing Er spoke. He was always so cold. "I'm worried about you." Xing Er hesitated for a moment before sitting down beside Shangguan Linglan. "Oh." Shangguan Linglan lowered his head slightly and didn't say anything else. Xing Er waited for a long time, but Shangguan Linglan didn't say anything. When he turned his head, he saw Shangguan Linglan sitting on the side with his head lowered and didn't say anything. Xing Er frowned slightly. He reached out and held Shangguan Linglan's hand. The cold palm made Xing Er's frown deepen. "Are you cold?" Xing Er asked. "No." Shangguan Linglan didn't expect Xing Er to suddenly hold his hand. His body trembled slightly. When he heard Xing Er's words, he wanted to pull his hand out. However, Xing Er tightened his grip. "Why did you come out alone?" Xing Er stared at Shangguan Linglan and asked. "I just came out to get some fresh air." Shangguan Linglan's heart trembled slightly under Xing Er's gaze. He spoke very seriously. "It's that simple?" Xing Er frowned again and asked, "Since you just came out to get some fresh air, why didn't you tell your father? Why did you come out alone? Is it because you don't want to marry me?" Shangguan Linglan heard Xing Er's words and suddenly widened his eyes in disbelief. His eyes were full of surprise as he said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" This time, Xing Er was silent again. Chapter 1753. How could I not want to marry you? Shangguan Linglan suddenly felt wronged. She stared at Xing Er and said, "I'm just unhappy because I've been locked up at home all this time. That's why I came out to get some fresh air. If my father knew, he would definitely lock me up even tighter." Shangguan Linglan said angrily, "It's all because of you. If it weren't for the fact that I have to marry you and can't go out now, why would I be locked up at home to embroider a wedding dress? I don't know how to embroider." "Is that all?" When Xing Er heard Shangguan Linglan's words, the expression in his eyes softened slightly as he asked calmly, "Of course, why else do you think it is?" Shangguan Linglan stared at Xing Er and said, "I thought you didn't want to marry me." Xing Er looked deeply at Shangguan Linglan and said, the look in his eyes was so moving that Shangguan Linglan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. "I thought you wanted to run away from the marriage," Xing Er said again. When he said this, Shangguan Linglan suddenly laughed out loud. "Why would you think that?" Shangguan Linglan's eyes were full of smiles as she said, "If I didn't want to marry you, I wouldn't have agreed to it. Now that I've agreed, I naturally won't go back on my word." "Is that so?" When Xing Er heard Shangguan Linglan's words, he suddenly let out a sigh of relief. His eyes were full of joy. "Of course." Shangguan Linglan replied very seriously. Looking at Xing Er's bright eyes looking at her, Shangguan Linglan's heart trembled violently and she turned her head away in embarrassment. "Don't look at me like that." Shangguan Linglan pursed her lips and said with a red face. "Then how do you want me to look at you?" Xing Er asked faintly. When Shangguan Linglan turned her head again to speak to Xing Er suddenly leaned over and kissed Shangguan Linglan's lips with his warm lips. This made Shangguan Linglan's body tremble slightly. Just as she was about to lean back, Xing Er pulled her into his arms. The temperature of the two lips was so scorching. Xing Er tightly held Shangguan Linglan in his arms and kissed her deeply. Under the starry night sky, the two people who embraced each other passionately. Shangguan Linglan, even though she didn't remember. She only knew that the man was whispering in her ear, "Wait for me to marry you." The morning sun was so dazzling that Jingyu's eyes were tinged with a touch of indolence. Shangguan Linglan woke up almost at the same time. When she thought of everything that happened last night, her cheeks immediately turned red. Jingyu didn't know what happened in the general's mansion. However, Jing Lang and Feng Ju were invited to the prince's mansion today. "Big brother," Jingyu called out happily. When Jing Lang and Feng Ju saw Jingyu and Xiaochen arrive, they also stood up. Their eyes were filled with happiness. "Sister-in-law, you're finally here." Jingyu stepped forward and held Feng Ju's hand. After getting married, Feng Ju looked even more beautiful. She was really suitable to stand next to her big brother. Jing Lang also called out and nodded slightly at Xiaochen as a greeting. "Did your journey go smoothly? Did anything go wrong?" After Jingyu pulled Jing Lang and Feng Ju to sit down, her eyes were tinged with a faint smile as she asked. Chapter 1754. Originally, we would have come earlier, but the wind Ju along the way was very charming, so we stayed on the road for a while, which delayed our journey. Jing Lang took a sip of tea and said, "Don't worry, the wedding hasn't started yet. However, big brother, you guys came late and didn't see the liveliness in the imperial city a few days ago." Jing Yu said with a smile. I heard. Jing Lang looked at Jing Yu and sighed deeply. You are pregnant now, so don't run around. What if something goes wrong? It's good that you are grounded now. Just stay in the palace. Big brother. When Jing Yu heard Jing Lang's words, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She originally thought that Jing Lang would scold her, but who knew that this person was worried about her stomach? Is Big Brother living in the house that father used to live in? Jing Yu and Jing Lang talked for a while before asking. Yes, I am living in that house now. It is very quiet and I am quite satisfied. Jing Lang slowly nodded and said. Feng Ju, who was beside him, also nodded. Jing Yu and Feng Ju walked around the courtyard, while Jing Lang and Xiao Chen continued to talk in the house. Jing Yu was not used to the peaceful days in the imperial city. After accompanying Xiao Chen at home for a few days, she couldn't stay any longer. No matter what, she had to run out. The happiest person with Feng Ju's arrival was Jing Yu. For the past few days, she didn't have anyone to help her with Shengguan Linglan's wedding. Lu Miaoqiu was the empress and had always been in the palace. Now that Feng Ju was here, wouldn't she have a helper? Jing Yu forcibly arranged for Feng Ju to stay in the Wangfu. Naturally, Jing Lang also followed. With the arrival of Feng Ju and Jing Lang, the Wangfu instantly became lively. Sister-in-law, look at these clothes. Jing Yu pulled Feng Ju into the room. She took out the small clothes that she had asked Anai Chang Yuan to make some time ago and asked Feng Ju, what do you think of these small clothes? These clothes are really beautiful. Where did you make them? After Feng Ju asked this, he seemed to have thought of something. He said in surprise, I heard Ah Lang say that you opened a tailor shop. Could it be that the clothes were made there? Of course, other than me, who else has the ability to make such beautiful clothes? Jing Yu raised the corner of her mouth and said to Feng Ju, when sister-in-law and big brother have a child, I'll take sister-in-law to make some clothes. Jing Yu looked at Feng Ju with a smile. When Feng Ju heard Jing Yu's words, a faint blush appeared on his face and he looked very shy. However, seeing that Jing Yu was already pregnant with her second child, it seemed that he really needed to work harder. Tomorrow, I'll go to this restaurant and see how the Jinyuan general's residence is doing. I'll also buy a few maids and servants. Jing Yu calculated carefully and turned to Feng Ju. There are still many things to do. Sister-in-law, come with me and give me some ideas. You don't think that I have bad taste. Feng Ju smiled and nodded, and said to Jing Yu helplessly. Chapter 1755. Sister-in-law is really interesting. Jing Yu and Feng Ju chatted intimately for a long time before letting him go. The next morning, Jing Yu shook off Xiao Chen and followed Feng Ju out of the residence. Xiao Chen bitterly watched Jing Yu leave before returning to his room and hugging his blanket to sleep. Jing Yu and Feng Ju first went to the Jinyuan general's residence. They wanted to wander around for a while before going to the restaurant to let Feng Ju have a taste of the imperial city's best. This residence looks much more imposing this time. Jing Yu got down from the carriage and looked at the two stone lions with red silk hanging in front of the residence's gate. Her eyes were filled with satisfaction. The guards of this residence had received news yesterday that Jing Yu was coming today. Thus, they had been waiting here since early morning. Now that they saw Jing Yu here, they quickly went to welcome her with eyes full of surprise. Why hasn't the plaque of the general's residence been hung up yet? Jing Yu looked at the plaque that was not hung up and asked with a frown. Imperial concubine may not know, but this plaque was personally written by the emperor. It is being done now and will be sent over tomorrow. The guard quickly replied. Jing Yu slightly frowned and turned to continue walking forward. Sister-in-law, do you feel that there is something strange about this door? Jing Yu looked at the door that had been repainted and asked with a frown. I feel that something is wrong, but I don't know what it is. Feng Ju slightly nodded when he heard this. Then, as if he had thought of something, he slightly frowned and said, it is probably a little too red. This red color is not right. Jing Yu excitedly nodded and said, isn't it just too red? Go get some gold paint and draw a small door on the door, just like this. Jing Yu said as she slightly drew on her palm. The guard immediately understood and nodded. There were many doors like this. When Jingyu said this, the guard naturally understood. After looking at the door, the two continued to walk forward. The weeds and other things inside the door were all cleared away. The original broken chairs and other things were all replaced. Now the courtyard was instantly dyed with a new color. It is not good to have a withered tree here. Jingyu looked at the bare tree and slightly frowned. Go get some vines, some green things that can bloom. Wrap them around this withered tree and hang a lantern on this branch. Then, put some tables and chairs here. A table and chair that looks like a withered tree is the most suitable. You can also put a chess set or a tea tree. As Jingyu was speaking, she saw a black figure striding over. She immediately stopped talking. Imperial concubine. Xing Er bowed to Jingyu. Xing Er? Why are you here today? Jingyu arched her eyebrows and looked at Xing Er as she asked. This subordinate heard that Imperial concubine was here, so I came to take a look. Xing Er slightly frowned and said. Jingyu looked at Xing Er's uncomfortable expression and a faint smile appeared in her eyes. You came at the right time. Did you hear what I said just now? What do you think? Jingyu frowned slightly and looked at Xing Er as she asked. Chapter 1756. Yes, Your Highness has the same thoughts as me. However, I originally wanted to hang some colored silk on the withered tree. Now that Your Highness has mentioned it, I feel that tree vines are more suitable. Xing Er awkwardly rubbed his nose as he spoke. Ha! Jingyu instantly laughed out loud when she heard Xing Er's words. Her eyes were filled with joy as she said, This is the difference between a man and a woman. Let's go, let's continue looking around. Jingyu's lips curled up as she continued walking forward. From time to time, she would speak up and ask for Xing Er's and Feng Zhu's opinions. Jingyu knew that Shangguan Linglan and Xing Er didn't seem like the type to engage in such trivial matters. It was a must to have a place to practice martial arts in the mansion. Therefore, Jingyu directly ordered people to push away all the trees and rockery outside the side courtyard, creating a huge martial arts field. In this martial arts field, there were many wooden stakes and scarecrows. Xing Er was most satisfied with this area and ordered people to bring more sand to fill it up. As for the decorations and furnishings in the house, Xing Er didn't really care. It was fine as long as he didn't lose face. The Jinyuan army general's residence was really big. Jingyu had spent more than half of the morning strolling around. Looking at the general's residence, Jihong had more or less bought all the things that needed to be added. All that was left was some delicate things like resting and reorganizing. After looking around, Jingyu was satisfied. The calligraphy and paintings, tea sets, and the like were all handed over to the housekeeper and the guards of the residence. Xing Er naturally kept an eye on them as well. You'll have to rely on yourself for the rest of the matters in this mansion. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me. Jingyu faintly curled the corners of her mouth and said very calmly, Thank you, Your Highness. Xing Er bowed. Jingyu smiled faintly and said calmly, By the way, so many things have happened in the Imperial City these few days. When will your wedding be postponed? It's delayed until the end of July, but it's only delayed by 10 days. It won't affect anything. Xing Er pursed his lips and replied, That's good. When Jingyu heard Xing Er's words, she slowly nodded and said, We will leave first. If you need anything, come find me at my residence. This general respectfully sends Imperial concubine off. Xing Er bowed. Jingyu got into the carriage and lifted the curtains slightly. When she saw Xing Er, who was dressed in black, standing straight at the entrance, she couldn't help but laugh. This Xing Er still can't change his appearance as a shadow guard. As Jingyu spoke, she leaned back slightly and smiled faintly as she spoke calmly. It's a temporary habit and it's hard to change it. It'll get better after some time. Feng Zhu also slowly lowered his head and replied, Speaking of which, I don't really understand how Linglan and Xing Er fell for each other. Jingyu's eyes were full of smiles as she said, This Xing Er is someone that I know. The way he speaks is extremely simple. He's even more unreasonable than Xiao Chen. Linglan is so lively. How did she fall for Xing Er? Jing Yu frowned curiously and said, no matter how I think about it, I still find it hard to understand. Who knows what fate is? Feng Zhu didn't know Xing Er and Shangguan Linglan very well. When he heard Jing Yu's words, he raised his eyebrows in amusement. Chapter 1757. Isn't this fate? Jing Yu turned to look at Feng Zhu and said, if this wasn't fate, how could Miss Feng Zhu become my sister-in-law? When Jing Yu said this, Feng Zhu had a bashful look. Seeing Feng Zhu like this, Jing Yu exclaimed, this Feng Zhu's skin is too thin. Is it because my skin is too thick? How is that possible? It must be because Feng Zhu's skin is too thin. Jing Yu said to herself seriously in her heart. The carriage wobbled through the bustling city and stopped in front of the rich-cum restaurant. Shen Yuqing personally came out to greet them. When he saw Jing Yu, his eyes immediately curved into crescents. Boss, you're here? Shen Yuqing looked at Jing Yu and called out. And how is the dish I asked you to make? Jing Yu asked Shen Yuqing as she led Feng Zhu inside. It's all done according to boss's instructions. Shen Yuqing nodded seriously. Good, I want to eat here with my sister-in-law. Prepare all the dishes in our restaurant. I want my sister-in-law to try them. Jing Yu and Feng Zhu walked into the private room. She turned to Shen Yuqing and said, I asked you to prepare the new dishes as well. Please wait for a moment with Madame Jing. I will ask the kitchen to serve the dishes. Shen Yuqing nodded slowly. He knew that Jing Yu was here to check the results. He didn't delay and immediately went to do the work. After Feng Zhu saw that Shen Yuqing had left, he raised his head and looked at the private room in front of him. It was really beautiful everywhere. Jing Yu raised her hand slightly and took a sip of the tea on the table. She raised her eyes and looked at Feng Zhu's surprised expression. She was very happy. Look at it. How is it? Jing Yu put down the teacup in her hand and asked Feng Zhu with a smile. I can't believe it. This is all made by you? Feng Zhu turned his head and looked at Jing Yu. His eyes were filled with amazement as he said, when I heard Lang say this, I thought Lang was exaggerating you. Now I feel that what he said was too simple. You are really amazing, Feng Zhu said with surprise. At that time, it was just a spur of the moment. I thought that if I could make money, then I could squander it in the future. Jing Yu leaned back slightly and said, but who knew that my business had just started to make money? Even if something like that happened, I thought that the restaurant would be gone after such a torment. I never thought that the restaurant would still be standing after so many storms. Jing Yu sighed and narrowed her eyes slightly. That's true. It really wasn't easy to get to where I am today. Feng Zhu knew almost everything about Jing Yu. At this moment, he looked at Jing Yu with eyes full of pity. In the past, he always felt that he had experienced a lot. But now, compared to Jing Yu, his experience was really insignificant. It's all over now. Everything is over. Jing Yu smiled and turned to Feng Zhu and said, actually, I brought sister-in-law here today because I have something to tell her. Chapter 1758. What? Feng Zhu sat up straight, looked at Jing Yu and said, what do you want to say? Just say it. I want to hand over all the businesses in the imperial city to Big Brother and sister-in-law. Jing Yu lowered her eyes and then slowly opened them again. She looked at Feng Zhu and said calmly, what? How can this be? You can't do this, this is your hard work. Feng Zhu was shocked by Jing Yu's words and quickly waved his hands. Jing Yu looked at Feng Zhu's shocked expression and found it funny. It is because this is my hard work that I want to hand over all these businesses to Big Brother and sister-in-law. Jing Yu raised her hand and interrupted Feng Zhu's words. But Feng Zhu slightly frowned and opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he suddenly stopped. He frowned and looked at Jing Yu, as if he had thought of something. Are you leaving? Feng Zhu looked at Jing Yu and asked. Jing Yu heard Feng Zhu's words and was not surprised. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Jing Yu and asked, Big Brother must have told you? Feng Zhu slowly nodded and replied, Lang told me before that you might not be staying in the Imperial City for long. Yes, Xiao Chen and I will not be staying here for long. The Imperial Edict to confer the title of Crown Prince will be coming soon. Xiao Chen will hand over all the power in his hands to Xiao Bai. When the child in my stomach is born, we will leave the Imperial City. Jing Yu said faintly. The businesses in the Imperial City always need someone to take care of them. Father's family business is here. Since Big Brother has come back this time, he definitely won't leave again. Sister-in-law can take care of this business. I wonder if sister-in-law can help me with this matter? Jing Yu looked at Feng Ju with burning eyes. Jing Yu's words made Feng Ju speechless. He sighed deeply. In the past, I've always heard of some big clans fighting over family assets. There were too many clans that did not interact with each other. Now, why did it become like this in my hands? Feng Ju said helplessly. I have no choice but to accept it. Feng Ju looked at Jing Yu with a gentle gaze. Why wouldn't I want such a profitable business? Jing Yu's eyes widened and she said seriously, maybe this business will be even more profitable in the hands of my sister-in-law. If you want me to help you manage this, that's fine too. Wen Ju raised his eyebrows and said, since it's a profitable business, you have to teach me before you leave. No problem. Jing Yu happily agreed to Feng Ju's words. Jing Yu and Feng Ju chatted happily. After a while, the dishes were served. It was Feng Ju's first time tasting a delicacy that he had never eaten before. He was really addicted to it. Jing Yu introduced the name and cooking method of the dish to Feng Ju while eating. Feng Ju, who was listening at the side, was amazed. This was the first time he had eaten something so delicious. He was very satisfied. After Jing Yu and Feng Ju ate and drank to their heart's content, they brought back the unfinished food in the store. As the saying goes, wasting is shameful. Therefore, Jing Yu took the leftovers and gave them to the Honorable 9 Emperors to eat. Chapter 1759. Before they left, Jing Yu chatted with Xin Yuqing for a while. She told him that the dishes this time were very successful and that all the dishes needed for Shangguan Linglan's wedding would be ready. When the time came, they could just follow the menu and invite the chefs to the general's residence to prepare the dishes. Before that, Helly and Theo would be coming. They would use this restaurant to entertain the northern pastoral Helly and Theo. At the same time, they would let Xiao Yuling and the people have fun together. After Jing Yu had explained everything that needed to be explained, she turned around and left. She asked someone to select a few maids and manservants to come to the manor tomorrow. If they had a clean background, they would be recruited to work for the general's manor. After a day of torment, Jing Yu was completely exhausted. When she returned to the Wangfu, she fell into Xiao Chen's arms and did not get up. Why didn't you rest properly? Xiao Chen frowned in displeasure. He turned to look at Yin Xiao and asked Yin Xiao to bring water for Jing Yu to soak her feet. Xiao Chen, the Honorable 9th Emperors, helped Jing Yu wash her feet. Jing Yu tilted her head and looked at Xiao Chen. Then she frowned and said, "You spoil me so much. If you suddenly stop treating me so well, I will think that you have fallen in love with someone else." Fallen in love with someone else? When Xiao Chen heard Jing Yu's words, he raised his head slightly. He reached out and took a cloth from the side to wipe Jing Yu's feet dry. Then, he said helplessly, I should be the one saying that. I will treat you very, very well. I will treat you so well that you will not fall in love with someone else. In the future, no one will treat you as well as I do, Xiao Chen said seriously as he stuffed Jing Yu's feet under the blanket. Ha! Jing Yu instantly laughed out loud. She reached out and looked at Xiao Chen happily and said, I want a hug. A hug. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu's cute appearance and his eyes were filled with joy. He waved his hand and asked Yin Xiao to take the things away. Then, he walked towards the bed and hugged Jing Yu in his arms. I am so happy. Jing Yu smiled as she hugged Xiao Chen. She narrowed her eyes and said. She raised her head slightly and kissed Xiao Chen's chin. I am very happy too. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. When he saw Jing Yu's small actions, he smiled happily. When Jing Yu treated him like this, Xiao Chen was the happiest. This was because he rarely saw Jingyu act so intimately with him in the past. The two of them lay on the bed. Jingyu told Xiao Chen about what she did today. She even told Xiao Chen about the changes to the general's residence. When she was talking about this, Jingyu seemed to have thought of something and suddenly stood up. Oh right. Jingyu sat up straight and looked at Xiao Chen seriously. Where is my residence? Where is the residence that I built? It's here. Xiao Chen was shocked by Jingyu's reaction. When he heard Jingyu's words, he frowned helplessly and said, the residence is here, so the residence is naturally here as well. I have asked someone to clean it up. You can go there whenever you want. Jingyu let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, that crazy Nailin-Yu didn't tear down her house. If it had been torn down, Jingyu would have dug out Nailin-Yu's corpse and whipped it. Chapter 1760. Holy shit. This house is my blood, sweat, and tears. If it were to be torn down, wouldn't I go berserk at any moment? Fortunately, it wasn't torn down. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she slowly let out a sigh of relief. She continued to lie down beside Xiao Chen and turned over to say, this house means a lot to me. Nothing must happen to it. If something were to happen to it, how am I going to build another one? When they were building this house, Jingyu and Xiao Chen had put in a lot of effort. Xiao Chen nodded slightly and said calmly, I haven't asked you before. How did you get all these weird things in your head? Can you tell me now? When Xiao Chen said this, it was as if he was talking about a trivial matter. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, her heart trembled slightly. She had told Xiao Chen about Qin Bai and number 9 before. However, Jingyu's words were very vague and she didn't go into detail. Now that Xiao Chen suddenly asked this question, Jingyu's body trembled slightly and she looked up at Xiao Chen. Do you really want to hear it? Jingyu's golden-green eyes stared quietly at Xiao Chen as she asked. Are you ready to tell me? Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu and asked this question. Instantly, Jingyu's breathing stopped slightly and she frowned. It seemed like she had no choice but to tell him about this matter. However, the two of them had already reached this point. What was there to be afraid of? If you want to know, then you have to be mentally prepared. I'm afraid you'll hear what I say and run away in fear. Or you might think I've gone crazy because I'm scared. Jingyu's furrowed brows relaxed slightly as she thought. When Xiao Chen heard Jingyu's words, he immediately frowned and looked at Jingyu as he said slowly, I understand. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen's serious response and for some reason, she suddenly found it very funny. She reached out and hugged Xiao Chen. She buried her head in Xiao Chen's chest and said faintly, tomorrow at that house, I'll wait for you. What do you want to know? I'll tell you anything you want to know. Jingyu said with a smile. Xiao Chen frowned and said, I'm still grounded. Pucci. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she suddenly laughed out loud. She looked at Xiao Chen with a smile and said, my imperial uncle, when did you become so obedient? You're grounded just because I told you to? If you want to go out, it's very simple. Just climb over the wall. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen with a smile and said, Madam has learned bad things. After hearing Jingyu's words, Xiao Chen's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. He reached out and hugged Jingyu even tighter. The morning sun was very comfortable. Jingyu dressed up exceptionally beautifully today. She wore very beautiful clothes and even took a fragrant petal bath before going out. Then, she put on exquisite makeup and wore beautiful jewelry. Madam, you dressed up so meticulously today. Are you planning to give the 9 emperors a surprise? Yin Xiao helped Jingyu choose the jewelry and asked from the side. You can say that. Jingyu thought for a moment and then said happily, your madam, am going out to meet a man today. What? When Yin Xiao heard Jingyu's words, it was as if she had seen a ghost. She opened her eyes wide in horror and stared at Jingyu with an astonished expression. Chapter 1761. Madam Yin Xiao's face turned slightly pale as she looked at Jingyu. Why are you so surprised? Jingyu looked at Yin Xiao's surprised expression and calmly smiled. She pursed her lips and said, remember to keep it a secret for me. You can't tell anyone. Your servant, your servant? Yin Xiao heard Jing Yu's words and instantly frowned even more. She completely didn't know what to do now. All right, you're really seductive. Jing Yu looked at herself in the mirror and nodded in satisfaction. If Xiao Chen was scared away by her words, then she would use her beauty to lure the ninth emperors back. Jing Yu instantly felt even more satisfied with this thought. Being born with such a good appearance really made people incomparably happy. I'm leaving. Stay at home and take care of the house. Jing Yu said as she stood up calmly and looked at her graceful figure in the mirror. Fortunately, her stomach wasn't big yet. Otherwise, wearing this set of clothes was simply courting death. Jing Yu happily smiled and turned around to walk away. Yin Xiao looked at Jing Yu's figure swaggering out with Xing 15 and instantly felt unwell. She completely didn't know what to do now. What did Madame just say? Going out for a tryst? How could that be? If Madame went out for a tryst, what would happen to the ninth emperors? If the ninth emperors found out, Yin Xiao instantly shuddered violently when she thought of this. Her eyes were filled with fear. She recalled something she saw before. It was that unfaithful woman who was caught by her husband because of this. Then, she was locked in a pig cage and drowned to death. Once she thought of this, Yin Xiao's eyes instantly became even more fearful. She stood there, not knowing what to do. Should she help Madame hide it? Or should he inform the ninth emperors and ask the ninth emperors to bring Madame back before she made a huge mistake? Yin Xiao really couldn't understand. The ninth emperors treated Madame so well. Why did Madame still do such a thing? Just when Yin Xiao didn't know what to do, a voice suddenly came from the other side. Yin Xiao's body instantly trembled. She knew that the ninth emperors had come. She took a deep breath and then slowly knelt down and bowed. Where's Madame? Xiao Chen looked at Yin Xiao, who was kneeling by the door and blocking the way. He frowned slightly and asked. Madame said that she wanted to take a look at the restaurant, so she left early in the morning. Yin Xiao clenched her hands tightly. When she said this, her hands were trembling uncontrollably. Didn't she go there a few days ago? Why did she go there again today? Xiao Chen frowned unhappily. His eyes flickered with a faint questioning look. I don't know. Maybe there are other things in the restaurant. Yin Xiao swallowed her saliva again and said with her head lowered. Since she's going to the restaurant, why didn't she bring you there? Why didn't she bring sister-in-law along? Why did she go out alone? Xiao Chen looked at Yin Xiao. His gaze landed on Yin Xiao's hands that were so nervous that they were about to break. He raised his eyes and looked at Yin Xiao indifferently. Raise your head. That cold and majestic voice rang above Yin Xiao's head. Yin Xiao's heart suddenly thumped. Then she slowly raised her head. When her gaze met Xiao Chen's pitch-black and cold eyes, she suddenly felt as though all her thoughts were seen through. Chapter 1762. This king will ask you one more time. Where is Madame? Xiao Chen's voice was very calm, as though it had some kind of magic. He looked at Yin Xiao quietly and asked, Ninth Emperors, please forgive me. I really don't know where Madame went. Yin Xiao really wanted to cry this time. The ninth emperor's was really too scary. Even if she wanted to hide it, she couldn't hide it in 3 sentences. She instantly broke down. Madame didn't tell me where she was going. She only said that she was going out to meet someone. Yin Xiao bit her lips tightly. Her words were very vague. When Xiao Chen heard Yin Xiao's words, the expression on his face changed rapidly. The long silence was like the calm before the storm. 2 words floated in Yin Xiao's heart. It's over. She was already kneeling on the ground and waiting for her punishment. However, after kneeling on the ground for a long time, she didn't hear Xiao Chen's angry scolding. Instead, she heard a very calm chuckle. That chuckle sounded as though he had thought of something pleasant. Royal uncle? Yin Xiao's mind went blank when the ninth emperors chuckled. She raised her head and looked at Xiao Chen blankly. This king understands. Xiao Chen gradually withdrew his smile and stood in front of the door with his hands behind his back. He raised his chin slightly and said, All of you take good care of this mansion. If anyone looks for this king, Tell them that this king is resting and no one is to disturb him. Do you understand? Yin Xiao hurriedly replied. Only then did she raise her head and saw Xiao Chen leaping towards the mountain rock. She instantly cried out in surprise, "Ninth Emperors, where are you going?" "To have a secret rendezvous with your royal concubine." Xiao Chen's leisurely words were heard. Instantly, everyone's expression became strange. They saw with their own eyes that Xiao Chen's figure had jumped over the wall and disappeared. The dignified Ninth Emperor didn't use his own home's door. Instead, he climbed over the wall and said that he was going to have a rendezvous with the Empress. Yin Xiao was completely dumbfounded. Were these two masters playing some kind of interesting game? Why couldn't she understand it at all? Could the rendezvous that Madame was talking about be a rendezvous with the Ninth Emperors? What kind of rendezvous was this? Yin Xiao instantly felt so conflicted that she didn't feel good. She furrowed her brows and looked at the two masters who left one after the other. She didn't know what was going on. But from the looks of it, he didn't have to worry about the 9 emperors finding out about his wife's tryst. Now that the 9th emperors had gone out personally, all he had to do was guard the door. As Yin Xiao thought of this, she instantly felt refreshed. She stood calmly in front of the door and guarded it quietly. Jingyu sat in the horse carriage and came to the door of the house that she had built back then. From outside, she could vaguely see the roof of the house. However, it was probably blocked by the trees and couldn't be seen clearly. Jingyu calmly curled her lips and revealed a faint smile. "I'm finally back," Jingyu said with a smile. She asked someone to open the door of the house and walked in with light steps. This was the first time 15th Xing saw such a magical building. He didn't know which country this building was from. Looking from afar, it didn't look beautiful at all. However, for some reason, it made people feel comfortable. Chapter 1763. Xiao Chen really got someone to clean this place up. Jingyu looked at the spotless stone table, and then looked at the flower bed that had been planted with branches and leaves. A faint smile appeared in her eyes. "It's really not bad." Jingyu walked into the house. When she opened the door, a cool smell wafted over. Jingyu changed into a pair of shoes at the door, then walked in step by step. The European style of the house had an antique feel to it. Jingyu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. Looking at this building, it was as if she had returned to the modern era. Just as Jingyu was enjoying the view to her heart's content, she suddenly saw a black figure standing on the spiral staircase. "Aya!" Jingyu was really shocked. Looking at Xiao Chen, who was standing on the staircase with his hands behind his back, her eyes were instantly filled with a smile. "Xiao Chen, how did you get here so quickly?" Jingyu walked toward Xiao Chen. Xing Shiwu had already seen Xiao Chen. Now that he saw Jingyu walking over, he silently retreated to the door. He stood guard at the door, admiring the scenery that he had never seen before. This made Xing Shiwu very curious. This was the house that Madame had designed and built herself? The decorations that he had never seen before, and the things that he had seen in the house just now, were strange, but so harmonious. Where did Madame see all this from? How did she have such ability? Xing Shiwu stood by the door, lost in thought. Meanwhile, inside the house, Xiao Chen walked down the stairs. Looking at Jingyu's well-dressed appearance, he knew that Jingyu had dressed up for him. Even his brows were tinged with a faint smile. "How is it? Do I look good?" Jingyu proudly twirled her skirt and asked Xiao Chen with a smile. "Picturesque." Looking at Jingyu's pair of golden-green eyes with a seductive expression, her seductive eyes, the fragrance that she had specially applied on her body, and her exposed snow-white neck, she was simply seducing people to commit crimes. "You really came out for a rendezvous." Xiao Chen walked up slightly and pulled Jingyu into his arms. His gaze deepened, and he tightened his grip on Jingyu's waist. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she instantly laughed out loud. That bright smile of hers made Xiao Chen's heart thump wildly. To be able to have a rendezvous with such a handsome man is a great thing in real life. As Jingyu spoke, she reached out and wrapped her arms around Xiao Chen's neck. Those slightly close red lips exhaled seductively. In that instant, Xiao Qin instantly felt an irrepressible heat hitting his lower abdomen. You're playing with fire. Xiao Qin looked deeply into Jing Yu's eyes and forcefully suppressed his impulses. Now that Jing Yu was pregnant, it was not the time to act recklessly. After Xiao Qin finished his words, Jing Yu looked at Xiao Qin's difficult expression and laughed in her heart. This man was really too funny. It was good to have a child to protect you. Jing Yu did not dare continue. What if she accidentally angered Xiao Qin and he abandoned her and ran away? Jing Yu stopped while she was ahead and let Xiao Qin calm down. She turned around and strode upstairs. In the spacious master bedroom, she looked at the bed, the architecture, and the luminous pearls with a nostalgic expression. How much effort and money did we expend to build such a house in ancient times? Jing Yu slowly turned her head to look at Xiao Qin as she asked. Standing against the light, Jing Yu's entire body softened. Chapter 1764. A pair of golden-green eyes quietly looked at everyone. There was a strong sense of nostalgia in his eyes. This house is built in a European style. When I was in the modern world, I always thought that, when my mission was over, I would buy a small house of my own and live a quiet life. Jing Yu slowly turned around, walked to the window, and sat down quietly. She sat in front of the window and looked at the scenery outside in silence. But this wish never came true until I died. Jing Yu turned to look at Xiao Qin and said, "If I say that I'm a person who came back from the dead, would you believe me?" This time, Jing Yu didn't hold back and revealed all her secrets. She spoke in such a calm tone in front of Xiao Qin. When Xiao Qin heard Jing Yu's words, the warmth in his heart suddenly paused. "I believe you." Xiao Qin responded faintly and slowly sat down beside Jing Yu. A faint smile appeared in his eyes, and he slowly lowered his head without saying anything. "Do you still remember the first time you asked me who gave me my name? I grew up in the forest, and who taught me how to speak?" Jing Yu slightly supported her head and looked at Xiao Qin with a smile. "Because I have the memories of my previous life. Do I still need others to teach me these things? I don't belong here. I came from a place thousands of years in the future, a place you have never seen before." Jing Yu calmly explained the modern world to Xiao Qin in detail. As if she was afraid that Xiao Qin wouldn't believe her, Jing Yu explained in great detail with a faint light in her eyes. As if she was reminiscing, she talked about guns, planes, televisions, cars, and other things he had never heard of before. Under Jing Yu's description, these things appeared in a very strange shape in Xiao Qin's mind. "I thought I was dead, but I didn't expect that when I regained consciousness and opened my eyes, I was in the Roman forest." Jing Yu slightly played with her fingers and said, "In the beginning, I was also a little scared. But the clear feeling that I'm still alive makes me feel excited and happy." Jing Yu faintly pursed her lips and smiled. "I don't know what caused me to come here, so for a long time, I have been searching for the reason. I even tried to commit suicide." Jing Yu thought of the time when she tried to drown herself in the water. She helplessly curled her lips and said, "But in the end, I couldn't bear to give up this extra life that was hard to come by. At that time, I was still young. In the deep forest, I only dared to move around the wolf mother. Because I didn't have the ability to protect myself, I thought I was still in the modern world, but I didn't know which deep mountain I was in." Jing Yu very calmly said, "It wasn't until I was about 6 years old that I left the mountain for the first time. When I appeared in the town, I found out that I had been reborn thousands of years in the future. To be honest, I was reborn in a time and space that had never been recorded in history. At that moment, I panicked. I didn't even know how to understand this strange thing. Later, I thought for a long time, since people can be reborn, why can't they appear in a time and space that has never existed before?" Jing Yu slightly raised her head and looked at Xiao Qin. Chapter 1765. Xiao Qin's expression didn't change in the slightest. His pitch-black eyes were still quietly watching Jing Yu and listening to Jing Yu speak. "Just like that, I grew up alone in this forest. For a period of time, I have been studying my eyes. Sometimes, I even feel that it must be because of this pair of eyes that I appeared here. However, I feel that it's not that simple. Originally, I just wanted to spend the rest of my life peacefully in this forest. There were no storms, no battles, and no killings. However, I didn't expect that your accidental intrusion would completely change my understanding of this ancient world that existed in a different time and space. As Jingyu spoke, she turned her gaze to Xiao Chen. She blinked her eyes mischievously and said, "You always say that I was following you, but you were clearly the one who trespassed on my territory." Xiao Chen's eyes were tinged with a faint smile as he said, "I also didn't expect that there would be someone living in the depths of such a dangerous forest. In addition to the situation at that time, it was reasonable for me to think that way. You know what happened after that? The strange dishes you saw, the decoration of this house, the clothes that I designed without a brush, and the various other things that came from me. They were all memories of my previous life that I brought here from the future." Jingyu faintly curved the corners of her mouth and said, "Now, everything is clear, right? The person in front of you isn't a young lady in her 20s. I'm already a woman in her 40s or 50s. Jingyu said with a smile. "How is it? After hearing what I said, do you think that you should call a doctor to take a look at me?" Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen indifferently and asked, "I think that you should call a doctor to take a look at me." Xiao Chen was silent for a moment before speaking very seriously. Jingyu was slightly stunned when she heard Xiao Chen's words. "I have to calm down." After Xiao Chen said this sentence very calmly, he slowly calmed down. His breathing was controlled and his eyes were slightly closed, as if he was digesting Jingyu's words. His quiet appearance made Jingyu very curious and she blinked her eyes. She quietly leaned to the side and looked at Xiao Chen calmly with a faint smile in her eyes. Xiao Chen didn't interrupt her and calmly listened to her words. Jingyu already felt extremely happy. The man she found was indeed not bad. "You mean to say that you were reborn from the space-time of the future?" Xiao Chen was silent for a long time. Then, he looked at Jingyu and said very hesitantly, "So? Qing Ji's surgeries and whatnot are also things from the future?" "Yes," Jingyu nodded very seriously. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. "In that case, aren't I very honored to be recognized by you and to be able to marry you?" Xiao Chen immediately chuckled. His pitch-black eyes were bright. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and frowned slightly. "Why did you suddenly appear here? If that's the case, will you suddenly disappear?" After saying this, Xiao Chen's body trembled slightly, as if he had thought of something and his body trembled violently. Chapter 1766. Will you disappear? Xiao Chen's expression had never been so serious. Jingyu opened her mouth slightly, but before she could say anything, Xiao Chen reached out and pulled her into his arms. His strength was so strong, and his arms wrapped around her were like ropes, so firm and firm. "I won't allow it." Xiao Chen stared into the distance and said, "I won't allow you to leave." Jingyu didn't expect that Xiao Chen would react like this after she said so many strange words. He was so anxious and scared that he held her in his arms, as if he was afraid that she would leave. "Xiao Chen." At this moment, Jingyu's heart trembled violently. Originally, she was afraid that Xiao Chen would think that she was crazy or that Xiao Chen would think that she was lying to him. However, she didn't expect that not only did Xiao Chen believe her, but he was also afraid that she would leave. Jingyu couldn't help but laugh. She moved her body slightly and buried her head in Xiao Chen's arms. She said helplessly, "I was afraid that you would think that I was babbling nonsense. It would be troublesome if you locked me up as a lunatic." When Xiao Chen heard Jingyu's words, he tightened his arms around Jingyu. "That's why I didn't dare to tell you before." Jingyu reached out and hugged Xiao Chen's waist slightly. Xiao Chen was silent for a moment before he said, "If you told me earlier, maybe I would have thought that you were crazy. However, after so many things have happened, I did guess a thing or two. What I guessed was that I thought you were really a monster or one of those immortals in fairy tales." Xiao Chen thought silently and said, "I was already prepared, but I didn't expect that you were actually someone from the future." When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she suddenly jumped up. She looked at Xiao Chen with gritted teeth and said, Why do I hear disappointment and disdain in your words? What's wrong? I'm not your fairy sister. You're not happy, right? I wouldn't dare. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu's threatening expression and quickly reached out to hug Jingyu. He said helplessly, as long as it's you, no matter what kind of monster you are, I'll like it. If I was a monster, I would have eaten you long ago. Jingyu angrily said as she poked Xiaochen's chest. She said so many words so solemnly, but she didn't expect that she would be looked down upon her. She deserved to die 1,000 times over. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu's angry face. Her feminine attitude made Xiaochen let out a very happy laugh from his chest. He leaned over and kissed the corner of Jingyu's mouth and said calmly, I'm very happy that you're willing to tell me such things. You're finally willing to trust me wholeheartedly. Xiaochen's pitch-black eyes looked at Jingyu without blinking. His gaze, which depicted Jingyu, was so moving that Jingyu's eyes were tinged with a deep smile. You're my husband. Jingyu arched her eyebrows and rubbed against Xiaochen's chest. She sighed contentedly. This was the first time she felt so relaxed. Finally, everything was peaceful. Chapter 1767. But Jingyu tilted her head slightly and looked up at Xiaochen as she said, so many years have passed, but I still don't understand why I woke up here. This is too strange, and I've been feeling very uneasy recently. Jingyu pursed her lips and looked at Xiaochen as she said, I don't know why I'm feeling uneasy. Is it because I've been worried about little potato? Or is it because I've been living a peaceful life for too long? I didn't even know if I was alive or dead. Now that I'm free, I keep feeling like something's wrong with me. Jingyu pursed her lips tightly and said, if it weren't for Shangguan Linglan's marriage, I would have been thinking too much. Since you know that you're thinking too much, why are you still thinking about it? Xiaochen hugged Jingyu a little tighter and said, I was too busy before and didn't take good care of you. Now that I'm with you every day, you won't think too much. Xiaochen's words were so considerate that Jingyu smiled faintly when she heard Xiaochen's words. She said calmly, now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. Okay, stop thinking too much. Xiaochen buried his head above Jingyu's head and said faintly, I'm the one who should be thinking too much. Why did I marry such a magical girl? What? Do you want to regret it? Let me tell you, it's too late to regret it. Jingyu hugged Xiaochen's waist tightly and said proudly, I'm relying on you for the rest of my life. Don't even think about getting rid of me. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu and laughed happily. The sun was especially bright that day. Jingyu and Xiaochen rolled around on the soft bed for a long time. It was as if their hearts were suddenly opened and there were countless things they wanted to say, or they couldn't help but want to be intimate with each other. Xiaochen was tortured to death by Jingyu. He had a warm and soft body in his arms, but he couldn't eat it no matter what. This was simply unbearable. After the two of them messed around for a long time, they were so hungry that they asked 15th Xing to get some food. They ate and drank their fill at the dining table downstairs. The two of them walked around the courtyard downstairs and looked at the flowers and plants. They felt that it was incomparably elegant. Ayaya. It really looks like we're out on a date. Jingyu sighed again. It's just that we're not allowed to see each other. Your servant Yin Xiao was scared to death by you. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu calmly and said, I didn't tell Yin Xiao that I came out to see you? Jingyu heard Xiaochen's words and her eyes widened in surprise. Xiaochen nodded calmly, indicating that Jingyu really didn't say anything. Jingyu saw Xiaochen nod and her eyes were filled with annoyance. She said helplessly, I clearly remember saying it. Did I forget about it? Xiaochen looked at Jingyu and shook his head helplessly. I already said it. It's fine as long as you said it. Jingyu looked at Xiaochen and said, but why don't you think that I really went to see someone else? I heard that Helian Xiao seems to be coming during this period of time, right? Chapter 1768. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu's flaunting expression and calmly raised his eyebrows. You are pregnant with this king's child. Who would dare to provoke you? What are you saying? Jing Yu gritted her teeth and glared at Xiao Chen. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen spent a long time together in the courtyard. When the sky was almost dark, the two of them returned to the prince's residence one after another. Jing Yu had just returned to the prince's residence when she heard someone report that the imperial physician had come to take her pulse. Jing Yu immediately frowned. She didn't feel any discomfort. Why did he need to take her pulse? "Madam, this is the order of Imperial Uncle," the servant girl said very carefully. "Imperial Uncle said that even if you don't feel any discomfort, you should take a good look and not make the slightest mistake." Xiao Chen is really making a mountain out of a molehill. Jing Yu helplessly shook her head, but her heart was filled with warmth. She obediently let the imperial physician take her pulse and asked about the condition of the fetus. After receiving a good answer, she was satisfied. She asked Yin Xiao to prepare hot water for her. After taking a good bath, she lay down on the soft couch at the side. She spread her hair slightly behind her back and waited for the wind to blow her hair dry. Jing Yu closed her eyes and lay down comfortably. Jing Yu was lying down when she heard footsteps outside and Xiao Chen's indifferent voice. Jing Yu turned her head slightly and saw Xiao Chen's long sleeves appear in front of Jing Yu's eyes. "Why aren't you wearing a coat again?" When Xiao Chen saw Jing Yu's barefoot appearance, he immediately frowned in displeasure. "It's fine in such a hot day." Jing Yu pouted and looked at Xiao Chen. She mischievously blinked and asked, "Why are you here so early today? Did you forget what we said during the day?" Xiao Chen sat down beside Jing Yu and said calmly, "Didn't I promise you that I will accompany you in the future?" "Really?" Jing Yu originally thought that Xiao Chen was just joking. She didn't expect Xiao Chen to be so serious. This made Jing Yu a little embarrassed. She wasn't a delicate woman. Why would she need someone to guard her every day? "What about your official duties?" Jing Yu looked up at Xiao Chen and asked, "You killed the minister of the Ministry of Justice with a single slash of your saber. That fatty called Lian Nikhang was also crippled by me. I heard that he was the backer of some assistant minister of the Secretariat of the Imperial Secretariat. Although Xiao Yuling grounded you, I don't believe that you really won't do anything." Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen curiously. After Xiao Chen heard Jing Yu's words, he revealed a very appreciative smile at Jing Yu. He slightly curved the corners of his mouth and said, "I originally thought that Madam didn't understand politics. Now it seems that Madam still sees things clearly. What's there to not understand? It's just that I don't want to think about it." Jing Yu quietly pouted. Yes. You is so smart. How could she not understand?" Xiao Chen curved his eyebrows and smiled as he spoke calmly. "Don't talk nonsense." Jing Yu glared at Xiao Chen and said, "Don't tell me that you really don't care about the matters of the imperial court?" Xiao Chen slowly shook his head and said, "If I were to deal with it, the storm would be over in a few days. However, this is a very good opportunity for Xiao Bai. I can use this opportunity to let Xiao Bai gain some experience." Chapter 1769. Every time he penetrated her, it caused her to tremble from her body to her heart. She couldn't help but moan softly. When it was all over, Xiao Chen planted a light kiss on Jing Yu's stomach and said tenderly, "Don't do it again." Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen's silly look and smiled faintly. She lay in Xiao Chen's arms and looked at her stomach, which seemed to have grown a little. She reached out and gently covered it. It was a very peaceful night. Jing Yu fell into a deep sleep in Xiao Chen's arms. She didn't know if it was because she was dreaming of something or if she was thinking of something. That night, Jing Yu once again dreamed of that bustling city. She dreamed of the last mission she had participated in. After the mission ended, she was mercilessly killed. Jing Yu didn't know what she had done wrong until she died. She could only feel the bullet penetrating her brain and the sea of fire exploding in an instant. In that instant, her eyes were burned and she lost all consciousness. Jing Yu's body trembled violently as she was engulfed in the aura of death. She suddenly opened her eyes and her heart was beating violently. Jing Yu suddenly got up, her eyes filled with intense fear and lingering fear. Her violent panting woke Xiao Chen up. "What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?" Xiao Chen reached out and wiped the sweat off Jing Yu's head. He held Jing Yu in his arms and asked with heartache. Phew, I'm fine. Jing Yu exhaled deeply. When she saw where she was, she slowly heaved a sigh of relief. She closed her eyes slightly and softened her body. She leaned against Xiao Chen and calmed her heartbeat little by little. After Jing Yu calmed herself down, she said to Xiao Chen, I dreamed of some things that happened before I died in my previous life. I felt a little uncomfortable. It's okay. It's all in the past. When Xiao Chen heard Jing Yu's words, he frowned slightly. However, he reached out and hugged Jing Yu tightly. He said deeply, Don't be afraid. I'm here. Okay. When she heard Xiao Chen's words, Jing Yu felt a little more at ease. After she suppressed her chaotic thoughts, she let Yin Xiao help her put on her clothes. It seemed that he had really recalled too much yesterday and was starting to dream. Jing Yu lowered her head faintly. She was a little lost in thought as she looked at the bright sunlight outside. However, the dream yesterday reminded Jing Yu a little. Who killed her in her previous life? Jing Yu was very confused. She had no recollection of it at all. Shangguan Linglan's wedding was going on intensely. Jing Yu took the rare time to see how the bride-to-be was doing. When she was getting married, she was locked up at home to embroider her wedding dress. That was a period of dark days. If Jing Yu didn't guess wrongly, Shangguan Linglan must be the same as her. Jing Yu wanted to take this opportunity to mock Shangguan Linglan. With this thought, Jing Yu set off in a gorgeous manner. She wore a very dignified dress and arrived at the great general's residence. The great general's residence was still the same. However, it seemed like Shangguan Linglan was about to get married. Everyone inside and outside the residence was full of smiles. When they heard that the 9th imperial concubine was coming, they were even more enthusiastic. Chapter 1770. During this period of time, Shangguan Linglan had been forced by her mother to embroider this damned wedding dress. She deeply understood how distressed Jing Yu was back then. Looking at the wedding dress that she had been embroidering for so long without any progress, Shangguan Linglan simply wished she could chop this damned thing into pieces. However, she looked at Shangguan Linglan's mother, who was glaring at her like a tiger watching its prey, but in the end, she didn't dare to do anything. She resigned herself to her fate and obediently sat on the chair to continue embroidering. Just as Shangguan Linglan was feeling incomparably bitter, she heard the voice of the servant girl. She said that the 9th imperial concubine had come to visit. When Shangguan Linglan, who was originally sitting there lifelessly, heard this sentence, her eyes instantly widened in surprise and joy. Jing Yu is here? Shangguan Linglan's eyes were filled with joy. Her actions were so big that it made Shanghai Linglan's mother, who was sitting at the side, glare at Shangguan Linglan unhappily. Shangguan Linglan immediately quieted down and lowered her head, not saying a word. You should learn from the 9th imperial concubine. You're about to get married, how can you still be so careless? If you marry into someone else's family like this, you'll be despised by your husband's family. Shangguan Linglan listened to her mother's words so much that she almost had calluses on her ears. Yes, your daughter understands. However, at this time, she had to obediently respond. If she talked back, she didn't know how long she would be nagged at for. When Jing Yu stepped into the room, she saw this scene. When she saw Shangguan Linglan's obedient and sensible appearance, she was instantly surprised. She looked at Shangguan Linglan's mother and immediately understood. After speaking very politely, Shangguan Linglan's mother left. Before she left, she even asked Jing Yu to discipline Shangguan Linglan properly. Jing Yu smiled and agreed. Aya, she's finally gone. When Shangguan Linglan saw that her mother had left, her eyes were instantly filled with joy. She looked at Jing Yu with a pitiful expression and said, Jing Yu, you really came at the right time. If this continues, I will have to run away from the marriage. Shangguan Linglan felt extremely wronged as she stretched out her fingers. Her 10 red fingers were filled with tiny needle marks. Shangguan Linglan looked as though she was about to cry as she looked at Jing Yu and said, Look at my hands. Look at what they've become. When Jing Yu saw Shangguan Linglan's hands, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. She reached out to hold Shangguan Linglan's hands and looked at them with a smile in her eyes. "You're much scarier than I was back then," Jing Yu exclaimed. "You're still laughing." Shangguan Linglan glared at Jing Yu fiercely and said, "Why didn't you come to see me earlier? I'm almost bored to death at home. Aren't I busy preparing for Xing Er's marriage?" Jing Yu looked at Shangguan Linglan from the corner of her eyes and said, "Miss Shangguan is going to marry our family's Xing Er. No matter what, I can't wrong you. That's why I've been so busy these past few days." "Great, now you're blaming me?" Jing Yu looked as though she wanted to say that Shangguan Linglan was heartless. When Shangguan Linglan heard Jing Yu's words, her face instantly turned red. "You know that I don't care about these things." Shangguan Linglan muttered softly. "You don't care, but the general's residence has to care. If you're wronged, how can your brothers let Xing Er off?" Jing Yu looked at Shangguan Linglan helplessly and said, "Let's go. You've been here all day. Let's take a walk in the courtyard." Chapter 1771. Okay. Shangguan Linglan couldn't have asked for anything better. She followed Jing Yu around the courtyard of the general's mansion. Speaking of which, there wasn't much to see in the general's mansion. It was far worse than the prince's mansion. However, when she was with Shangguan Linglan and saw that Shangguan Linglan was still so lively, Jing Yu's eyes were full of smiles. This person hadn't changed at all even after so many years. This was good too. Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. She listened to Shangguan Linglan talking at the side. From time to time, the two seemed to talk about the good things that they had done together in the past. She suddenly laughed out loud and suddenly mentioned the time in the bathroom of the academy. When they were talking about Jing Yan, Jing Yu suddenly remembered that Jing Yan still existed in her memory. Ever since Jing Yan was sent to the nunnery, there had been no news of her. She thought that with Jing Yan's temper, she might have already committed suicide because she couldn't bear such a thing. Jing Yu didn't have much hatred for Jing Yan. If it wasn't for this person going against her, she wouldn't have been like that. Jing Yan's end was because she asked for it. Jing Yu didn't take it to heart. Now that she brought it up, she just took it as a joke. Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglan walked around the courtyard and reminisced about the past. In the blink of an eye, they were still young girls, but they were already married. Jing Yu and Lu Miaoqiu were both mothers of children. Time really waits for no one. The two wandered around and returned to the house once again. Jing Yu sat at the side to rest and drink some water. "You're already pregnant. Why are you still doing these things? When did the 9 emperors let you do as you please?" Shangguan Linglan saw that Jing Yu didn't drink tea and instead drank water. She immediately looked at Jing Yu's stomach and raised her eyebrows slightly. "This child is doing fine." Jing Yu calmly raised her eyebrows and said, "It's not good to stay at home every day. It's good to find something to do. Besides, this small matter doesn't affect me much." "I heard about it." Shangguan Linglan looked at Jing Yu excitedly and asked, "Your 9th emperors beheaded the Minister of Justice?" "Yo, you're a closed-door embroiderer, but you're quite well informed." When Jing Yu heard Shangguan Linglan's words, she raised her eyebrows in surprise. She looked at Shangguan Linglan with a smile and said, "Yes, he did it on the spot." Heads fall to the ground. Hiss. Shangguan Linglan heard Jing Yu's words and immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. He said in distress, "Why wasn't I there at that time? It's a pity that I didn't see it with my own eyes. In the past, I always heard from my second brother that the Minister of Justice used his power to bully others and took bribes and bent the law. He said that he would take him down sooner or later." Shangguan Linglan said seriously, "Who knew that even after my second brother talked for so long, he still wasn't as impressive as the 9th emperors? He beheaded him with one strike. Amazing." Shangguan Linglan's eyes were filled with surprise as he spoke. "This is all thanks to me," Jing Yu said proudly. "If it weren't for my cleverness, I wouldn't have gone to the Ministry of Justice's prison with a big belly. Would Xiao Qun have the excuse to chop off people's heads?" Chapter 1772. When Shangguan Linglan heard Jing Yu's words, he was suddenly at a loss. He glared at Jingyu and said, "You're really not afraid of death. If anything happens to the child in your stomach, I think everyone in the Ministry of Justice will be dead." Jingyu silently blushed with shame and said calmly, "I know the severity of the matter. Nothing will happen. Only you guys would do something so reckless." Shengguan Linglan shook his head helplessly. Jingyu silently turned her head and saw Shengguan Linglan's bright red wedding dress on the shelf. She moved her chin slightly and asked, "What are you going to do with your wedding dress?" Although the wedding date was delayed, it was only delayed for 10 days. "Your wedding dress, no matter how I look at it, doesn't look like it can be finished." Jingyu's eyes were filled with schadenfreude. When Shengguan Linglan heard Jingyu's words, he turned his head and his gaze landed on the wedding dress on the shelf. He suddenly felt his entire body screaming in pain. "Why don't you help me embroider it?" Shengguan Linglan blinked his eyes and looked at Jingyu with a pleading expression. "My Miss Shengguan, you want me to embroider your wedding dress? Are you sure?" Jingyu looked at Shengguan Linglan with a strange expression. She silently extended her hand in front of Shengguan Linglan and asked seriously, "Look at this lady's hand, does it look like it's an embroidery hand?" Shengguan Linglan suddenly remembered that when Jingyu got married, her wedding dress was made by someone else. "Why didn't you bring Miaoqiu here?" Shengguan Linglan looked at Jingyu with an aggrieved expression and asked, "Miss Shengguan, Miaoqiu is the empress now and she's pregnant. How dare you ask her to embroider your wedding dress? Aren't you afraid that Xiao Yuling will give an edict to behead you?" Jingyu glared at Shengguan Linglan with a look of disdain and said, "I'm at my wit's end." Shengguan Linglan heard Jingyu's words and his expression became even more aggrieved. "Lanlan, good luck. It's getting late, I'm leaving," Jingyu said as she quietly put down the cup in her hand. "Little Yea, you're abandoning me so heartlessly?" Shengguan Linglan's pitiful face when he heard that Jingyu was leaving. "Little pitiful, I'll come and see you in a few days." Jingyu reached out and patted Shengguan Linglan's head as if she was petting a puppy. Shengguan Linglan's mouth twitched violently and he looked at Jingyu pitifully and said, "Next time, bring me some good food to eat. My mother insisted that I maintain my figure these few days. She only allowed me to eat vegetarian food," Shengguan Linglan said with an aggrieved expression. Jingyu looked at Shengguan Linglan's expression and a faint smile appeared in her eyes as she agreed. Jingyu left the general's residence. When she returned to the prince's residence, the sky was already completely dark. Walking in the courtyard of the prince's residence, everything was so familiar. In the following period of time, Jingyu seemed to have a lot of free time. She had to give Fengju things and she taught him little by little. From time to time, she would run out and teach Fengju how to read the account books. Jingyu's set of arithmetic methods could be said to be incomparably clear. These peaceful days continued until the arrival of the Northern Pastoral Emperor, Helian Theo. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.